All right, good evening, students. So today we are going to start the paper discussion. We have already discussed 4 questions from this part 2 paper, right? Second part paper. So we are in the part 2, right? Second part 2, right? So we are going to discuss the 5th question, right? So uh while listening to the these answers, while listening to the answers, if you have any questions, right, just please raise your hand or please unmute your mic and ask anything from me, right? Okay. We are going to discuss the question: what is the most powerful supporting service that has contributed to the development of globalization at present? Illustrative process, right? So when we discuss about globalization, what is globalization? Globalization is something that we are engaging business activities over the borders, beyond the borders, right? What is the border? So let's get Sri Lanka as an example. Sri Lanka has a area, specific location, right? Sri Lanka has specific area that belongs to Sri Lanka, but beyond those borders, it was not belong to Sri Lanka. But due to this globalization, we are using products of India, right? India is not belong to us, right? We are using products of Australia, America, right? China, right? This is the reason. Due to reason is what? Globalization, right? So here the question is asking, right? What is the most powerful supporting service, right? We know that there are different supporting services, right? Let's get as an example, there are communication, right? Then banking, right? Then there are transportation, right? Transportation is our answer, right? So then there are logistics services, right? Logistics services are coming under transportation, right? So the answer is transportation, right? So what is the most powerful support service? That is transportation, right? So illustrate this process, right? So it was the question is asking, right? How the transportation help for the this globalization, right? How the transportation is helping. So when we know that, right? So think we are ordering something for China, right? We are ordering something from China, right? So when we want to get that product to our country, right? So we need to ask from them, right? We need to ask from them to transport those goods, right? So think without transportation, is this globalization is actually a possible thing? No, right? So to move people, to move goods, right? Globalization is essential, right? So you can describe that, right? So you can get an example to illustrate that process, right? So as an example, so let's think we are ordering something from China, right? To order that thing, right? To um, get that goods to our country, right? We should use the transportation, right? So it will the it might be airway transportation, it might be seaway transportation, or after we receive those goods to our land, right, we should use the land transportation, right? So likewise, you can describe the task, right? So why is communication is important for social activities? Why the communication is important, right? So it was asking for social activities, not for business activities, right? So what are the importance of communication for social activities, right? So communication is for what? Communication is for share our thoughts, share our ideas, right? Share information, specifically share information, right? So for social activities, right, we can use communication, right? We can use communication to express an idea of someone or express a feeling of someone, right? Then actually we can build relationships with others, right? We can build social relationships, right? then we can coordinate with others, right? You are a leader, right? So if you want to be a good leader, you should have good communication skills, right? You should possess good communication skills, right? Okay, we are moving to the next question, right? So if you have different answers, you can ask from me, right? State two advantages. Sorry, state what are the possible barriers to effective communication. So there are a lot of barriers, right? A lot of barriers to communication. Think while I'm teaching to you, while I'm explaining this paper, right? So there was a power cut, right? So what happened? Signal will be losing few minutes, right? When the signal was gone, what happened, right? Actually, I can't express my idea clearly to you because there are many interruptions, right? So communication, while we are doing communication, there are a lot of barriers, right? So we should we should have the capability to avoid those barriers, right? So let's discuss what are the barriers for effective communication. First one is physical barriers. What are the physical barriers? Think there are noise, right? Actually, noise is uh, the worst barrier to our effective communication. Think there is a lot of noise around you, right? Think your family is having a party while you are studying, right? So you can actually do your study very well, right? So noise is one thing. Actually, it was a physical barrier. Then there are language barriers, right? Think someone in the class actually can't understand easily in English, right? So they might be have the capability only for single or time. Let's assume, right? So actually, you can't understand what I'm saying at the first instant because you have that barrier, right? So language is the next barrier, right? The next one is psychological barriers, right? So actually think while I'm studying, while I'm teaching, right? You are in a different mindset, right? Think someone of you is angry with your boyfriend or girlfriend, right? Let's think, right? You think you are angry with your boyfriend or girlfriend, right? So you are playing while you are attending while you are attending to the class, right? You are actually having a fight with them in a mobile phone, right? So actually, can you understand what I'm saying clearly to you? No, right? Because you are in another mindset, right? So the mental status is very important to get a clear idea, right? Okay, then next one is organizational barriers, right? Uh, actually think you are giving a message to your subordinate that was actually he's an ordinary employee, right? Think you are the president of the group, right? When you are the president of the group, right? Actually, your message is not directly going to that employee, right? It was going to your hierarchy, right? You are giving that message to your senior manager, right? Then the senior manager is giving that message to his manager, right? Then the manager is giving that to the assistant manager, right? That if there is a high level of hierarchy, right? If there is a long actually administration process, right? So the message will be delayed, right? So organizational barriers are also there, right? Okay, so that was the answer for that question, right? We are moving to the next question. State two advantages gained by media users through verbal communication used in communication, right? State two advantages gained by media users through verbal communication used in communication, right? So actually verbal communication is very important because, right, think you are at the opposite side of mine, right? So even though you are at a opposite side, right, actually communicate you verbally, right? Actually you can actually hear me, right? So actually you can get the what is the emotion I'm trying to give you, right? So think uh you know that why I am turning on my camera while I'm teaching, right? So this is the my actually my image, my visuals are not actually very important, but looking at me, you are trying to understand my emotion to tell you, right? Think I'm actually turn off my video. So actually you can't see only this paper, right? So now we are getting information through visuals, through voice, right? Through audio and video, right? You are processing, you're collecting information through both the things, right? Actually, verbal communication is very important in that aspect, right? And also, right, when we are doing communication, immediate feedback, right? Think I'm asking a question from you, right? So you are giving the feedback to me at that instant, right? Actually, it was very quick, no? Then the next one is high persuasion and personal touch, right? Actually, so my think I'm raising my voice tone, and actually I'm showing you my emotions, right? Then actually then we can build a actually strong communication, right? We can actually build a strong relationship, right? Think I'm actually anger, right? So you are not going to raise your word when I'm teaching, right? So think actually I'm soft and teaching you as a friend, right? Actually then you can ask any question from me, right? Is it true? No, right? It is true, right? So you can ask any question from me, right? Next one. So we are moving to the third question. Mention for advantages gained by business organization through the use of social media communication methods, right? Ah, So you know that since you are a teenager, so you actually always open to social media, right? So you think all of you have mobile phones, right? All of you have social media platforms, right? So you all exposed to those things, right? So what you should learn is, right? What you should learn is you should learn the value of social media, right? So there are actually negative things and also positive things, right? So you should only get the positive things, right? Stay away from the negatives, right? Or the positive in these days, right? Because when you are trying to seek positive in this social media, you don't know you are going to stuck to that, right? So you don't know the time or the instance or time or the occasion that you are stucking into that. So don't use social media in these days, right? Just turn off your notifications, right? So do things by yourself, right? Later, use social media actually use A levels, right? So even to then until now, until your exams, right? It is enough to get information through the news, right? So actually, social media is not bad to escape from your ordinary life, but it was actually a matrix that was not suitable. It was actually having a logarithm that was not suitable for students now, right? For A-level students, right? Anyway, let's discuss the importance for business organization through social media, right? So first important is global reach at low cost, right? We can actually reach a lot of people at low cost because it was open to everyone, right? Lot of people are actually using this social media, right? The next one, direct customer interaction, right? So you can actually attract customers with advertising, right? You can actually now advertisement methods actually we can target only our specific target audience, right? Next one, rapid information dissemination, right? Think you are going to launch new product, right? Actually, you can actually give you can give instant updates to your customers, instant updates to your audience, right? So social media will help for those things, right? You can boost your audience using those advertisement, paid advertisements, right? So actually it was very important, right? Okay. Then we're moving to the next question. Next question is mentioned for advanced for social media communication methods. It was very easy, you know that there's for Facebook, right? Actually, it was Meta group, right? So there are Facebook, WhatsApp, right? YouTube, right? Yeah. So likewise, Instagram, email is important, right? So actually no, email is not the social media, right? So you have LinkedIn also, right? Okay, then define multimodal transport used by business organizations and give examples, right? So multimodal transportation, right? So you know that, right? We think so earlier we have discussed we are importing something from China, right? So to import that thing in China, right? This multimodal transport is essential, right? So we can't actually get, we can actually deliver things only from the aircrafts, right? So not only aeroplane will help to deliver things to our warehouse, right? So think it might, sometimes it might be a aircraft, sometimes it might be a lorry, right? Sometimes it might be a tuk-tuk, even tuk-tuk, right? So there are a lot of transportation models in the world, right? Actually, to deliver that uh, product or something that we are transporting, right? To deliver that thing to the destination, this multimodal transportation is very useful. I think you are going to your school, right? When you are going to your school, right? Sometimes your father or mother will actually carry you to the bus stop, right? Think after you get down from the that bus stop, right? You are getting to a bus, right? Then you are actually getting out from the bus stand, and you again start again. You get uh, three wheel or tuk-tuk or something, uh, pick me or something to get travel to your school. Likewise, there are different transportation modes staying near to the school. So you sure it was only a short walk, no? Okay. Then actually multimodal transportation. So let's get that thing using an example, right? So multimodal transportation, the transportation of a single consignment of goods from its origin to its final destination using at least two different transport models, right? At least two different transport models mean, so you think moving something from a lorry and again from the train, right? Two ways, right? Two transportation ways, right? So you are using two transportation ways to transport, right? So likewise, think actually, students, give me a second. uh okay, something happened to my I think hope all of you can see me and hear me, right? Wait. Okay, students, I think everything was sorted now, right? There was a connection issue, right? So we were there, the defined multimodal multimodal transport used by business organization and give examples, right? So we know that right, multimodal transportation means when we are transporting something, not only use only one transportation method, but also at least we are when you are using two transportation models, that might be a multimodal transport, right? So we got that example, transportation, transporting apparels, right? Think you are apparel manufacturer, right? You are then you are after you manufactured those apparels, you are transporting those apparels to Katunayaka through a lorry, right? Then to that from the Katunayaka airport, right? It was no, I think let's things to harbor, right? Think after you the transport those things to harbor, right? Now the cargo is going to that country, right? So then it was traveled by now a ship, right? By a ship. Then after they dispatch those goods in that their harbor, right? They can again transport those apparels to the ones who ordered those apparels to their companies, right? Their sales outlets, right? Guys? So they are using a lot of transportation modes when they are using that when we are doing this transportation through multimodal transportation, right? Okay, so that was that question, right? We are moving to the explain four problems currently faced by businessmen when using transport methods, right? So there are a lot of problems, right? So even you might have different problems when you are going through these transportation things, right? First thing is traffic, right? So when you are going to school or when we are going to somewhere, right? So think staying in Colombo, right? There are a lot of traffics, right? It might take to travel 5 kilometers or 30 minutes, right? So 5 kilometers in outstation is actually sometimes it might 5 minutes for me, right? But here in Colombo, right, it will take around 30, sometimes it might be 40 or sometimes it might be 1 hour. Right? Actually it was a tragedy. The traffic, right? Traffic is actually a worst thing, right? Then high operational cost, right? So think your cost of your organization will be very high when you are transporting goods to uh one place to another place, right? Consistently, right? So actually sometimes transportation cost is the highest operational cost in some organizations, right? So we need to reduce that cost, right? We need to find effective transportation modes to our companies to reduce cost, right? So that was the next thing, right? Next one is inadequate infrastructure, right? Think you are not having a proper vehicle transport or deliver goods or travel to you, right? Think you are not having fuel, right? So when there's a fuel crisis, so there are actually it was an infrastructure now. So think you are traveling through actually not developed, not built road, right? Your road is broken. Actually, there was a lot of stones and so it was it was causing damage to products also, right? Then next one, risks of damage and theft, right? While when you are transporting those goods, right? So it might be there are my thieves, there will be a lot of thieves, right? So think traveling something from night, right? So there are thieves that are ready to actually we are telling like uh actually we can tell but it was stuck in my mind, hijack right? You can hijack, right? There are a lot of things that are trying to hijack those goods, right? Okay, so those are the uh four problems that we are facing when you're doing transportation, right? Okay, now next thing, right? Next, fifth question: why would a business pay attention to capacity when selecting suitable transport method, right? So the capacity is very important when we are traveling goods, when we are delivering goods, when we are transporting goods, right? So think not only goods, right, but also the students, but also people, right? Think you are going to school, right? So the actually I think a bus is jam packed, right? So you can't go through that bus, right? You should wait until the next bus is coming, right? So capacity is very important, right? So think you are going to travel, we are going to transport 50 large boxes, right? So what transportation methods you are going to use? Is it tuk-tuks? No, is it a van? No, it should be a lorry, right? So because you are transporting big 50 boxes, right? You should use a lorry, right? Think you are transporting that thing from actually a long distance, right? So it was actually not good to travel from, think you are going to down south to Jaffna, right? Actually, it was very low cost when you are transporting those goods through a train, right? Still train will charge you a low cost, right? So you actually you should care concern more about the capacity, right? So it will take only 2 marks, right? So you should be tactful to get the 2 marks from using that information, right? So then next question. What are the current trends taking place in the transport sector due to technological advancement? Right. So due to technological advancements, right? There are a lot of trends, right? So in transport sector, right? So we can actually one thing that actually we are using since 2015, we are using GPS, right? We can actually track the goods where the goods are locating, right? So actually we can use GPS, right? So we can actually real time track those goods, right? The next one, digital platform integration, right? So actually we can actually now we are using Pick Me, Uber, right? Then HelloGo is a new thing, right? We are using those digital platforms to transport, no? Right? Even we can transport goods and documents also, right? Then next one, green technology, right? Next advanced thing is green technology. We are using now electric vehicles, right? Now actually we are not burning carbon, right? Now the carbon footprint will be reduced because now we are using eco-friendly transportation modes. Right, then next one, automation, right? We can actually there are a lot of vehicles now in the yeah, in our country, right? We can actually do not need to drive those, right? They are automatically doing parking. No, so they are actually sometimes riding automatically, right? We don't actually we just have to sit in the vehicle, right? Okay. So that was actually question number 5, right? So you might think this is the A-level exam structure. No, this is not the A-level exam structure. This is still second term, right? This is still a question paper related to grade 13 second term, right? I'm giving you the next paper. Next paper will be grade 13 A-level exam model paper, right? Okay. We are moving to the sixth question. Show the relationship among the concepts authority, responsibility, and accountability using a diagram and briefly explain it. Right. So I will share you a diagram or image, or else I can actually draw that thing. Right. So let me draw. Okay. we are using the same thing, right? Same page for that, right? So think this is top level, right? So you can mark this, right? You can actually can name this as top level management. No, it was easy to share that image, right? Let me share that image. I'm going to erase it. Erase this. Okay, let me share the image. Okay, this is authority, you can see, right? So authority, it was something like right to make decisions and give orders, right? Think you are having authority, right? Think you are the principal of your school, right? So you legally receive authority, right? You legally receive power, right? The power you receive through a legal things, right? The power you receive legally is authority, right? So now you have right to take decisions and give orders, right? So this was uh, top level management, right? Resource management, right? Then going down, when you're going down, there's responsibility, right? So when you have an order or decision to fulfill, right, you have a responsibility to do that thing. You are actually responsible to that task, right? So responsibility means what? Duty to perform assigned tasks, right? Duty to perform assigned tasks, right? Then next one, accountability, right? So accountability means what? Think you got an order, right? Think you got an order or decision or order or yeah, think let's assume order, right? You got an order, right? Now you are working on that, right? So when you are working on that, right, actually you should accountable to your managers or the one who give that order, right? You should tell them these are the actions that I have already taken, right? These are the things that I'm doing in this order, right? These are the things that I'm doing for our project. Likewise, you should tell them, you should tell the manager that the order to you, right? The things that you are doing, right? Okay, we are moving to again to that paper. I hope you got an idea about this concept called authority, responsibility, and accountability, right? So, authority is what? Authority is the power that you are receiving through the your designation or your you actually your authoritative power that you are gaining, right? Then next one, responsibility. Responsibility is what? Responsibility is the actually liability that you should perform that task, right? Then accountability is what? Accountability means the you should tell them what you are doing. You should be accountable to them in your uh actions, right? Then next one. So draw that diagram and you can explain that thing, right? Then an organization chart take a pyramid shape. State two reasons for this, right? Think organization chart. Why the organization chart is like pyramid, right? So first one is there's a hierarchy, right? So hierarchy is like this, right? So there are few people that is controlling the organization. So the top is actually small, right? When we are going down, right, there are a lot of managers, right? Under that there are a lot of executives, right? Then there are a lot of interns. Then there are a lot of ground level workers, right? So hierarchy is become like a pyramid shape, right? First one is authority. The next one is actually hierarchy. First one is hierarchy of authority. then actually we can tell the next reason is span of control, right? Think under one manager there are a lot of people working, right? Under another manager there are a lot of people working, right? So under that thing, under the under that executives or assistant managers, under those assistant managers there are a lot of people is working, right? So likewise due to span of control, right, that's the that hierarchy is looking like a pyramid, right? Okay, we are moving to the next part, next question. uh Briefly explain the relationship between planning and plan, right? Okay, so the planning is the process and the plan is the outcome, right? Not the outcome, uh it was actually a written plan, right? So think planning is the decisions you are making, it was that process, right? Actually plan is the written document of that planning, right? Okay, planning is a continuous dynamic process that involves thinking ahead, analyzing environment, setting objectives, and this is deciding the best course of action to achieve them. Right. So what is plan then? The plan is the final tangible outcome or output of the planning process. It was the outcome of the planning process, right? That the planning is the process and the plan is the outcome of that planning process, right? So actually, it was formally a document, right? Okay, next one, right? Next thing we are going to discuss. Uh, Not every plan becomes successful. Right? Explain the reasons for this. Right? Okay. So we are making different plans in our life, right? But not all of them are not getting successful now. Right? Why the reason? What are the reasons? What are the reasons for those failures of plans? Right? Actually, one thing is think you're not having enough resources, right? When you are not having enough resources, you can't accomplish those tasks, right? Then another thing, right? Think you're not having actually think you're in a dynamic environment, right? Dynamic environment means that actually it was changing day by day, right? So when the environment is actually changing, happened? What happened when the environment? You should adapt to that changes, right? So it was very hard to adapt, right? So if you are a fast mover, if you are an adaptable person, right, you can actually survive in your plans, right? Actually, if you are not adapting to those changes, right, you can't actually achieve things, right? Next one, uh inaccurate forecasting, right? Think you have forecasted things, right? But your hypotheses are actually wrong, right? That might be happen because the actually the process reason is dynamic environment, right? Your forecast is actually your forecast might be wrong because the environment is dynamic, right? And you should change your plan, not the goal, right? The next one, resistant to change, right? So another thing, right? A lot of people actually having a plan, but think when the environment is changing, they are not adapting to that environment, right? Okay, then next one. Power has broader meaning than authority. Briefly explain this idea. So actually, power is having broader idea than authority, right? So we have discussed earlier that one, right? So authority is something that you are gaining through your designation, right? Authority is something formal and positional, right? So actually it was something that coming from your position, right? So what is power? Power have lot of sources, right? Even authority is contributing to the power, right? Think another thing, think like you are actually having a lot of experiences, right? So that is also a source of power, right? Think you have informational power, right? You actually acknowledge about that aspect very well, right? So you have power, right? The next one, think you are having a power to give gifts, right? To you have actually a power to give gifts, right? So think you can offer high salary for someone, think you can offer actually gift someone, right? They are actually obeying to you, right? You have power, right? Think you have power to punish someone, right? You have a power to punish someone. You have actually think you are a masculine person, right? So think you have a good voice, right? So you actually think you can control someone, right? That is actually uh power to actually punish someone. I think someone is doing wrong thing, right? You can actually when you are punish those people, right? You are gaining a power, right? You have already have power, right? So that is another source of power, right? Okay, so then those are the things that you are getting. That is why the power is more broad than authority, right? So think you are receiving a legitimate power, right? Think power legally received to you, right? So you're having maximum power, right? Okay, explain why leadership is important to an organization, right? So leadership is actually very important to an organization, right? Think, actually, I heard a story like, if there is one lion that controlling bunch of sheep, right? They are actually performing well than a sheep is uh controlling bunch of lions, right? Actually, leadership is very important, right? Think you have a great leader, right? They will they will carry to you your destination properly by avoiding those obstacles, right? So leadership is very important. One aspect is providing direction and vision, right? Leaders are giving you direction and they are providing you proper vision, right? The next one is building moral and motivation, right? So the leaders are the one who building this moral and motivation, right? Okay, we are moving to the next question, right? Explain why leadership is important. Yeah, we have discussed. Then next one, explain the term motivation and suggest a suitable method that a school principal can use to motivate school and teachers and students. Uh, so actually, principal, what are the tactics that the principal is using to motivate students and teachers, right? So think the principal is appreciating a teacher within the other teachers, right? Then she will receive a good moral, right? So she will receive actually motivation when the principal is actually appreciating him, right? Him or her, right? Then next thing, actually, you can actually follow. You can actually implement different character building programs with them, like leadership programs, right? So think you can select a good teachers, right? Good set of teachers, and you can build them character by using this leadership training programs, right? Then actually you can actually empower them, right? You can actually give more responsibility, give new responsibility, right? Give the new actually think a teacher. You can appoint a teacher as a we are calling like section heads, right? Or likewise, a section head can be appointed as vice principals. Likewise, you can empower them, right? And also you can do that career development programs. You can do that leadership training programs to build their lives, right? Build their characters. Okay, then next thing, first those are for teachers, no? So what are for students? Being prefect position. Likewise, you are empowering in those positions, right? Then you can actually get rewards, right? Think the principal is arranging a reward, giving things, right? Prize giving things, right? Then next one, you can actually get, the think principal is giving you a constructive feedback, right? So when he is giving you a good feedback, right, you are motivating, right? Even the best person, even the highest person in our hierarchy is giving me a feedback. So you are definitely getting motivation, right? Then actually, yeah, those are the things, right? Those are things that principal can do to build teachers and students, right? Okay, then we are moving to briefly explain what is meant by strategic plan and state benefits of business can gain from such plan. Okay, strategic plan is something like long-term survival plan, right? While you are dominating, you should be survived, right? Because environmentally is rapidly changing, it was dynamic, right? So you should have a strategic plan. So what is strategic plan? Strategic plan is a comprehensive long-term plan formulated by the top level. Actually, strategic plans are they are deciding by strategic level management managers. It defines overall visions, missions, and long-term objectives of an entire organization. It involves analyzing external environment, opportunities and threats, and internal environment in strengths and weaknesses. Right? To determine how the business will complete and survive in the market over the next 3 to 5 years, right? That actually it was a strategic plan, right? You should also build a strategic plan, right? Without a plan, we can't achieve things, right? Okay, then next one. Benefits gained from a strategic plan. First benefit is provide a clear direction, right? Think you are having a strategic plan to your life, right? You can now have a clear direction, clear vision, right? Next one, proactive risk management, right? You know you are aware of the risks you are ahead in your head, right? So you can actually manage risks, right? Then next one, optimal resource allocation, right? When you have a strategic plan, right? You can use optimum usage of your resources, right? Without wastaging them, you can actually get the optimum and the maximum usage, right? Then create competitive advantage, right? Think you're having a strategic plan, think you are doing things with a plan, right? So you can get an competitive advantage with your competitors. Right, okay. We already done the sixth question also. I'm actually giving smoothly and fastly today because sometimes you might feel boring, right? So till you are not asking questions from me, right? So actually, I'm very I'm actually very happy if you're asking questions. Anyway, since you are not asking questions, actually I'm describing these things smoothly and uh in a fast pace, right? Okay, we are moving to the seventh question. State four sources of power available to manage apart from legal authority and briefly explain two of them. We have discussed a similar question like this. So I'm not going to explain those again. I'm just giving you the answers, exact answers. First one is reward power, right? If you want to get ultimate power, you should have the power of giving rewards, right? Reward power. Students, give me a second. My mother is calling me. Okay, back to the question, right? So we have discussed reward power, right? Next one is expert power. Expert power means it was the power of information, right? Think you acknowledge about your industry. Think you acknowledge everything about your. Think you have information, every information about your the thing that you are doing, right? Think you are a sport person, right? You should, if you want to be a best character, if you want to be a best sport person, you should collect all the information related to that, right? Then you will be a master, right? Then actually expert power means influence derived from the manager's specialized knowledge, technical skills, and unique experiences. I think you have unique experiences, think you are having technical knowledge, think you are having information, you will be the master, right? Then next one, coercive power. What is coercive power? Coercive power, ability to punish or penalize, right? So, coercive power means I already discussed that thing. This is the exact word. Coercive power means ability to punish or penalize, right? The next one, referent power. So it was actually referent power is something that was coming from your head. I think think you have a good connection with the your managers, right? Think you are good think you have a good connection with your leader, right? So that connection will do this referent power, right? So you should have good social skills, you should have good communication skills, you should have a good network, right? Then only you can get this referent power, right? So those are the sources of power. So then, what is the most important manager skills for top level managers? Actually, it was conceptual skills, right? You know that, right? Different skills are needed by the managers, right? For the top tier, for the top level managers, it was conceptual skills, right? They should have the ability to think, they should have ability to recreate things, right? So that was conceptual skills, right? So the cognitive ability to view the organization as a whole, understand how it was varied department interrelate, anticipate how changes in external environment will affect the business long-term strategic vision. Likewise, top level managers should have conceptual skills, right? So then, what are the actually lower level managers should have? They should have operational skills, right? Then, what is a skill that everyone should possess? Actually, it was communication skills, right? Okay. The next one, we are moving to leadership in organization, right? So, what is the question? Leadership is the ability to influence the behavior of group of people to achieve organization goals. Explain why the leadership is necessary in an organization. Is the personal qualities and managers qualities of a good leader, right? So we have already discussed a similar question like this, right? So leadership is very important to an organization, right? How it acts, how it works, right? While managers organize tasks, allocate resources, leadership is strictly required to provide the clear vision and inspire employees to willingly commit those tasks, right? Think you are working as an employee, right? Think you feel lazy or you feel like it was something not belong to me. But what the leaders are doing, leaders are actually motivating you, right? Leaders are actually uh, letting feel you like it was all your own task, right? That's what leaders are doing, right? The leaders can actually uh, go to your goals and achieve their goals while achieving your goals also, right? So that's what leader is doing, right? So qualities of a good leader. Leaders should possess personal qualities, right? What are the personal qualities? Self-confidence, emotional stability, right? High intelligence and cognitive ability, right? Honestly, integrity and ethical behavior, charisma and natural perseverance, persiveness, right? So those are the actually personal qualities, right? The next one are manager qualities, right? The leaders should have these manager qualities, right? Strong decision making ability, then external communication skills, then external human resource skills, right? Then visionary thinking and technical knowledge, right? Uh, those are the abilities that should possess by leaders, right? Those are the qualities that should possess by leaders. Then organizations use motivation methods to encourage employees to work effectively. Explain this with examples, right? Okay, there are a lot of financial motivation methods and non-financial motivation methods, right? So let's discuss financial motivation methods, right? Financial motivation method, we can get offering high basic salary, right? Then annual performance bonuses, right? Then career-based compensation, commissions, then profit sharing schemes. Likewise, there are financial motivational methods, right? Then there are non-financial motivation methods also, right? So rewards that fulfill higher level needs, right? Such as self-esteem and self-actualization, right? If you can give them like self-esteem and a self-actualization, idea like self-actualization, they will actually motivating by themselves without your effort, right? If they have a self-esteem or self self-esteem or self-actualization, they will they will doing those tasks assuming that the task by owned by themselves. Okay, then we are moving to the next question, right? Organizations use motivation methods. Yeah, we have discussed. What are the functions of operation management? What are the functions of operation management? So this was the lesson number 13, right? First one is product and service design, right? First one is product and service design. This was doing by the operation management, right? Then, so the first question is asking what is operation management, right? Sorry, functions of operation management. So it was not asking what is operation management. So functions are actually products and service design, then production process design and selection, right? If you want, you can write down production process design and selection. Then facility location and layout planning, right? Layout planning should be there. Then production planning and capacity control. They should control those capacities, right? Then quality management and control. Then inventory and material management. Then maintenance management. Those are the things that are functions of operation management, right? Okay, we are moving to the next question. What factors should be considered when selecting the most suitable production method for a business, right? When we are selecting most suitable production method, there are different things that we should decide, right? First one is nature of the product, right? We should check whether what kind of product is this, whether the product is highly customized for individual buyers or standardized for the mass market. Likewise, the next one, volume of demand, right? How much orders, how much of customers we should serve, right? You should actually go with numbers, right? The anticipated market size and frequency of customer orders, right? That is next point, volume of orders. Then we are moving to the third point, availability of resources, right? So when we are selecting a production method, we should check whether if our resources are enough. This, right? Next one, flexibility requirement. Right? So you should move fastly. You should actually change rapidly, right? So then you should decide the actually production methods like job production and batch production, right? You can't go with mass production, right? So if you have flexible requirements, right, you should choose that things, right? So the next question, so we are going to discuss job productions, right? So there are three types of production methods: job production, batch production, mass production, right? So when we are discussing about job production, right, a production method where a single, unique, and customized product is manufactured entirely according to specific requirements of customer before the business moves to the next product, right? Okay. So what is this job production? Job production means you are fulfilling orders of someone after checking their requirements, after checking their wants, right? So that is job production, right? So think as an example, you are preparing a cake for customer, right? Wedding cake. I think it was a wedding cake, right? So I think it was like a birthday cake, right? You're actually designing that order specifically for that person, right? So actually you have a lot of flexibility, right? Think you want to change the design, right? You can do it, right? If you want to change the design, you can do it, right? So think engaging in a continuous production method, mass production, you can't change the design, right? Flexibility is lower in there, right? Then it was asking job production and what are the disadvantages of them. Even though there are a lot of advantages, there are a lot of disadvantages. What are those disadvantages? First one is high unit cost, right? Unit cost, high unit cost. I think, yeah, producing a birthday cake, right? You should use specific ingredients there, right? You should use customized things there, right? You should take a lot of time and also you should should have to bear a lot of cost, right? Then inability to achieve economics of scale since goods are not mass produced, right? So think you are producing a lot of goods, right? Then when you are producing a lot of goods, you know how to do this production method in a few period of time using few resources. But since you are in a job production, right, you are receiving orders, you should maintain the same, you should maintain good quality for your satisfaction of your customer. So it was actually a not having economics of sales, right? Then requires highly skilled and expensive labor, right? Think you are doing a think you are actually having a hair salon, right? So actually it was actually job production is happening there, right? So they are serving, even though the word production is there, right? Services are also, we can get services also, right? So think let's get that production example like cake manufacturing. So when we are manufacturing a cake, right? So you should be highly skillful in making cakes, right? So you should need high skillful labor, right? Then next one, the production process is heavily time consuming, right? Not like other mass production methods. Job production is taking a lot of time, right? Then we are moving to the next question. Explain how locating large scale business can negatively affect the environment and surrounding community. Large scale businesses, how they are actually doing bad negative things to the society or the environment, right? First one is environmental impact, right? They are actually dumping those garbages into water resources and they're polluting air, right? So high emissions of toxic fumes, chemical effluents, and severe uh, noise pollution. Large scale construction can destroy local biodiversity, clear natural habits, and drain local water resources, right? Likewise, the there are a lot of effects to the environment, right? Then next community impact, right? There are a lot of impacts to the community, right? First one, operations heavily increased local traffic congestions by large cargo trucks. Additionally, the massive energy and water consumption of the factory can strain the local infrastructure, causing utility shortages for nearby residents. Likewise, there are social issues with the big manufacturers, right? Okay, we are moving to the last question, right? So today we have discussed everything very rapidly, right, in a short period of time. But I think you might like that, right? Without taking a lot of time. Anyway, if you want to get a clear idea, if you want to get a maximum use of this time, please ask questions, right? Okay, we are moving to the eighth question. What is the objective? So, what is the objective of operation management, right? Here we have the opportunity to describe operation management, right? Okay, the primary objective of operation management is to produce goods and services of the right quality, right quantity, right? What is the main objective and primary objective? Producing goods in right quantity at right time, right? And right quality, right quantity, right time, right quantity, right quality at right time, right? That is the main objective. Then, while minimizing the overall cost of production, achieving maximum efficiency and effectiveness resource utilization, right? So here in operation management, right, the operational managers or the business should get the maximum use of resources, maximum use of available resources. Okay, we are moving to the next question. So it was asking like what is value addition occurs in operational process and explain this statement. Right. Okay. Value addition is the difference between cost of inputs and the market value, right? Difference between selling price and cost, right? Of the final outputs, the operational process physically or chemically transform raw materials, labor, and capital into finished goods or services. This transformation changes raw materials, labor, and capital into finished goods and services. This transformation changes the shape, form, utility, and inputs, right? Making them useful to the final consumer, right? So let's get an example like you're making drink using oranges, right? So initially the cost of that oranges might be like 50 or 100 rupees, right? But you are selling that orange juice for 250 rupees, right? So you see that there is a 150 value addition, right? That value addition was happen while you are doing that operation, right? While you are adding those ingredients, likewise, that is value addition, right? The next one, we are moving to the next question. Yeah. For the following situations, identify the most suitable production method and explain it and state two advantages. Building a business head office. That is simply job production, right? When we are engaging a producing a building or something infrastructure, right? Job production is the most suitable because it was taking a lot of time, a lot of resources, need more skillful labors. So it was job production, right? Okay. So explanation. A single unique product is manufactured entirely to meet the specific customized requirements of single customer. Business ordering the head office. Right. Two advantages. Right. The final product perfectly matches the specific desired designs and quality of the standards of the customer. Then workers perform a variety of tasks to start and finish, which reduces monotony and increases job satisfaction and motivation. Right. So that was something like import that was an outcome of an job production for this building for business head office. Right. Then next one, seeing a preschool uniforms in order. So actually it was batch production, right? So batch by batch you can change the appearance of that uniform, but for a single batch you should provide similar uniforms for that batch, right? So for preschool, so preschools actually are changing their uniforms frequently, right? But not like schools, right? So for that, actually batch by batch you can change the production ways and change the outcome, but for one single batch you can give the same outcome for them, right? So the best thing was batch production, right? So advantages of using batch production is lower unit cost compared to production and offers flexibility as a business can easily change the machine settings so a different size or color once the current batch is completed. So flexibility is there, right? The next one, for the following businesses, identify the most suitable layout system and explain them. A compute assembling business, right? Actually, most suitable layout is product layout. Why? The reason, all machinery, workstations, equipments are arranged in a strict sequence corresponding to exact steps of the assembly process. The raw materials enter at the one end and continuously. Your outcome will be coming at the next end. Likewise, for for computer assembly business, it was line production is uh, line layout is the best thing, right? The next one, for a hospital, actually it was functional layout, or we can say it like process layout, right? What happened? All similar equipment, functions, and specialized personnel are grouped together in specific departments. So department wise, you can arrange different specific equipments for that department, right? Think you are actually in a outpatient department, right? You can actually go to that place and you can discuss with doctors and you can give your actually your you can explain them about your uh, disease or your sickness, right? Then after they check that thing, right, they are giving you into a thing you are going to a to check you check to get a blood report, right? So you are going to that place, right? There are specific instruments in that place, right? So they are doing same thing, right? So think you are going for a surgery, right? So the specific items are located in there, the specific specialized persons are there, right? Likewise, the best thing for a hospital is functional layout, right? You can arrange similar things in a similar place, right? Similar goods or machines in a similar place. Likewise, that is process layout, right? Okay. So now we are having a question. The following information taken from manufacturing company. Fixed cost is 10,000, selling price is 25, and variable cost is 15. Production capacity is 20,000 units. Using the equation method, calculate the following. Break-even point. It is asking what break-even point. How we are going to calculate break-even point? So, initially, right, when you are answering question like this, right, you should have what? You should have this information. You should have align this information, right? So now you should have fixed cost, selling price, variable cost, production capacity, right? Then you should initially find something like called contribution. Contribution. How we are going to find contribution? You can deduct variable cost from selling price. Selling price. Step 1 is what? When you're having this kind of a question, find the contribution. Contribution is how much? 25 minus 15 equals 10, right? So the contribution is, you have already found that contribution is 10, right? So you should have, you have to calculate the BEP, you know. So what is the equation of BEP? BEP is equals to fixed cost divided by contribution, right? So what is fixed cost and contribution? Okay, fixed cost is 10,000. When you are dividing your fixed cost using your contribution, it was, the answer is 1,000, right? So BEP is how much? BEP is 1,000, right? So then now the next question is asking, right? So you should remember this equation. BEP equals fixed cost. So this was wrong. Not FE, it was FC, fixed cost, right? So BEP equals fixed cost divided by contribution. And BEP equals fixed cost divided by contribution. You should remember this definition, not equation, right? Okay. Next question is asking number of units required to earn a profit of 4,000. So what is the meaning of BEP? Break-even point means the place where you are not earning even profits and losses, right? So here you are covering your variable cost, right? Actually, you can continue your business if you are achieving this break-even point, right? You can continue your business without any doubts, right? Without any issues, right? But still you are not getting profits, and profits are actually important for the growth of the organization. Anyway, you are not getting profits, right? So you find that 1,000 is the break-even point, right? So we can use another equation to find number of units required to earn profit of 4,000, right? So actually you can add that 4,000, right? Actually it was this is equals expected profit. Expected profit plus you already have the fixed cost, right? So what is the definition? What is the equation? So you can add expected profit to the fixed cost, and you can divide it by the contribution again, right? You can divide it by the contribution. So units under expected profit. This is the equation. You can add fixed cost to expected profit and you can divide it by contribution, right? So let's calculate it, right? Equals, so fixed cost is how much? It was 10,000 and the expected profit is 4,000, right? Then you can divide this equation by contribution. Contribution is how much? Contribution is 10, right? So what is the answer then? So when you add this 10,000 to 4,000, it was 14,000. 14,000 divided by 10 equals what? How much? It equals 1,400 units. 1,400 units. This is the answer, right? So here it was 1,000 units, right? I hope this is an easy question, right? I hope you got a clear answer. Right, using the above information, illustrate the cost, volume, profit, CVP analysis, right? Okay, I'm going to draw a CVP analysis. You can actually draw it with me, right? So CVP analysis is like this, right? So here, so whatever. Okay, so you know that there are some information that we can get, right? So you know that this is our fixed cost, FC. Fixed cost is how much? It was, you know that it was 10,000, right? It was 10,000, right? So our variable cost is starting here, right? Our variable cost is starting here. This is our variable cost. Okay. So what we can actually draw here is, right? So initially, right? This is cost curve now, right? This is the cost curve. So this is the cost curve, right? So where is our revenue curve? The revenue curve is starting from 0, right? Because when we are not producing anything, right, our income is 0, right? So revenue curve is starting from here. It was starting from 0, right? So it was eventually grow like this, right? It was straight line, right? So you saw that, right? You saw that, right? You saw that. So there is a place, right? There is a place, right, that we can actually get BEP. This is the place, right? So this is the break even point, right? How much we should produce to get the break even point? So we got that number. It was 1,000 units, right? 1,000 units, right? Okay. So what is our expected profit? Expected profit is 4,000 rupees, right? So actually it was far more beyond the BEP, right? So we can draw that, right? So our expected profit is here, right? Okay. So this is the place that our expected profit, right? So this was our production, right? We should produce. So this should be a straight line. We should produce 1,400 units to get that expected 1,400 units get that expected outcome, right? So this is the CVP analysis using a graph, right? So you can easily draw this, right? This is revenue curve. Okay. So I hope you got an idea, right? So we are moving to the next question, right? If you have any doubt, please ask from me, right? A diagram showing stock. You can even send me a private messages, right? Okay, a diagram showing stock level behavior is given below, right? Name A, B, C, D, E, G, H, right? So now we are going to name these spots, right? So A, what is A? This is what? This is maximum stock level. Right. Then what is B? What is B? This is reorder level. Then we are moving to C. What is C then? This is the minimum stock level. C is minimum stock level. Right? So we are moving to D. Where is D? There isn't any D, right? No, there is D. Where is D? A, B, C, D. There is D. So actually, what is this? This is lead time. So this is lead time. What is lead time? Lead time means the time that you actually that it takes to receive orders after you ordered your quantities, right? Think you after you order, the time that is taking to receive goods to your warehouse is lead time, right? So then we are moving to the DE. That is E. E is what? E is safety stock, right? Safety stock. So you can see this range, right? You can see see this range, right? This range is having the safety stock, right? What is then F? What is F? F is rate of consumption, right? You can see from here to here we are consuming, here to here we are ordering, where you receive the order, right? Here to here you are using those goods again, right? So that is consumption, usage rate. F is usage rate. Then we are moving to G. What is G? That is the danger level. Right? So if your stocks are going out from this reorder level, right? That is you are in danger, right? You are in danger, right? So what is this H? So this was we are telling like stock out level. Stock out level. Okay. So we have came to the last question, right? So actually today we have discussed everything very rapidly since no one is responding. Anyway, right? anyway, students, since you are watching this recording, right? I think there was few students in today's class, right? Anyway, every day is going like that. Anyway, right? Please ask questions from me. Why this was happened? Why this answer came? Right? I will explain to you. Right? So, had a great session today. Had a quick session. Even though I'm saying it was quick, it was almost take that the same time like last days. Anyway, we are going to wind up the session, right? You can actually the best thing that you can draw your marks, you can develop your marks, you can develop your writing skills is answering the papers and joining to this paper discussion sessions, right? So that is my advice to you, right? Okay, then have a good night, right? I'm going to wind up the session. Good night, just good night, all of you.